All right, so our next property that we'll use to solve polynomial equations is called the zero product rule. It says that if a times b equals 0, then a equals 0 or b equals 0. In other words, the only way that you can multiply two numbers together and get 0 is if one of those numbers is itself equal to 0. So what this allows us to do is take two factors and split them up into two equations. And then those equations will be linear, and we know how to solve those from chapter 2. So let's just take a look at how that works. All right. Solve each equation using the zero product rule. Okay, equation A. So let's start out where we already have it factored out. Let's do x plus 1 times x minus 2 equals 0. So we have this factored, actually quadratic equation, but we have thing A times thing B equals 0. So that's this x minus 1, that's our A, and that's our B from the zero product rule. So what we're allowed to do is say, okay, if A times B equals 0, therefore our x plus 1 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. So from each factor we get its own equation equal to 0. And then those are really easy to solve, right? All I gotta do here is subtract the 1. I get x equals negative 1. Okay, and then over here I just add the 2, and I get x equals 2. And those are our two solutions. Okay, so let's try one a little different. So another pre-factored one, but there's an important case to see here. Let's do 3x times 2x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, so this kind of looks like a situation where maybe we factored out a GCF, and it was just 3x. But we can still use the zero product rule on this one as well. So generally when you have the x out here in front, that's going to mean 0 is one of your solutions. Let's see why. Okay, so that one, 3x is the A, and then 2x minus 5 is the B. Okay. So now we do the zero product principle thing, zero product rule, and split them. So that means we have 3x equals 0, or 2x minus 5 equals 0. And now we can solve these two linear equations. With 3x equals 0, all we need to do is divide both sides by the 3, but then 0 divided by 3 is still 0. So we get x equals 0. That's one of the solutions. With that one, it's going to be a little trickier, so we got to add the 5 over to the other side. To get 2x equals 5, and then we have to divide by 2. To get x equals 5 halves as our second solution. All right. So that's going to be a fairly common case to see. If you see an x, or maybe even an x squared, just a variable hanging out there with nothing added to it, that can immediately tell you 0 should be one of your solutions. But you should still use the zero product rule to split that equation off on its own. Okay. let me do one of our kind of familiar examples, the one we did actually in the last video. So this is do x squared minus 9 equals 0. Okay, so we could use the square root property like we did before. Let's try to do this one by factoring and then using the zero product rule. So first, how would that factor out? So it's a difference of squares. We know it's going to be x plus 3 times x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so we have these two factors equal to 0. By the zero product rule, we can conclude that one of the factors must be 0. So either x plus 3 equals 0 or x minus 3 equals 0. All right, and then to solve those, we just subtract the 3 for this one. To get x equals negative 3. And then here we add the 3 to get x equals positive 3. So those are actually the same solutions we got last time. We just didn't write them together with the plus or minus. But that's the plus one, and that's the minus one. Okay, so that kind of points us to our general method, and we'll pick that up in the next video.